like to invite you to watch our weekly documentary about the Arab-Israeli conflict, then and now. Today we are talking about the Yom Kippur War of 1973, and we're going to start with the causes of the war. Max?
The Arabs have had a long-lasting claim to the city of Jerusalem, a holy land for all three of the monotheistic religions. Most Arab states don't recognize Israel as an independent state. In 1971, the president of Egypt, Anwar Sadat, had promised to deal with the Israeli situation. Between 72 and 73, he tried to gain U.S. support by raising the oil prices significantly. Arabic pride was brought down in the Six-Day War when they were dishonored with a defeat. The period between 1971 and 1973 was relatively peaceful, except for a few clashes between the Israeli and Egyptian-Syrian armies in the Suez Canal. Now, we will talk about the course of the war. Johanna?
Thank you, Max. The war started on October 6, 1973. Yom Kippur is a holiday and the holiest day of the Jewish year. This means that the nation was not working and was shut down. Many of the soldiers went on a leave. Egypt and Syria cooperated to create a surprise attack on Israel. Syria and Egypt both attacked Israel at the same time. Egyptians crossed the Suez Canal and took part of the Sinai from the Israelis. At the same time, Syrian tanks attacked Israel on the Golan Heights. In 2 days, the Egyptians crossed the Suez Canal and moved up 15 miles. At the same time, the Syrians were grasping more and more land and advancing towards the Israeli capital. The Egyptians started to set up a beachhead. As the Syrians and the Egyptians thought that Israel had no opportunities whatsoever to fight them, they were wrong. Though the attack came as a surprise to the Israelis, and the Jews were short of military forces, on October 8th they managed to push back the Egyptian army and cross the Suez Canal south of Ismailia. Then the Jews used Suez-Cairo road to get to the capital of Egypt, Cairo. They actually got 65 miles from it. The Israeli gained the same success at the Golan Heights. When they pushed back the Arabs, using the main road from Tiberias to Damascus, the Israelis started to advance towards the Syrian capital, and they actually got 35 miles from the capital. On October 24, 1973, the United Nations called a ceasefire. United Nations powers were sent to the volatile regions affected by the fighting. The Jews kept control of the Sinai Desert just to make sure that there would be no fighting in the actual Israeli land. And now to the consequences of the war. Go ahead, Max.
The end of this war was a military victory for the Israelis. They proved that they have better tactics, weapons, units, but this was really a political victory for the Egyptians and Syrians. The Egyptian and Syrian states had gained a lot of respect from countries such as the U.S. The U.S. and other countries were not expecting anything like this from Egypt and Syria. In Egypt, General Shazali had angered Sadat for advocating the withdrawal of Egyptian forces from Sinai to meet Israeli incursion on the west bank of the canal. 6 weeks after the war, he was relieved of command and forced out of the army. Ultimately, he was sent into political exile for years. The Yom Kippur War had a direct relationship with the Camp David Accords. Since it had upset the status quo in the Middle East, the war served as a direct antecedent of the 1979 Camp David Accords. In response to the U.S. support of Israel, the Arab members of OPEC, led by Saudi Arabia, decided to reduce oil production by 5% per month on October 17th. On October 19th, President Nixon authorized a major allocation of arms supplies and $2.2 billion in appropriations. On October 19th, President Nixon authorized a major allocation of arms supplies and $2.2 billion in appropriations for Israel. In response, Saudi Arabia declared an embargo against the United States, and it was later joined by other oil exporters and extended against the Netherlands and other states, causing the 1973 energy crisis.
Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye! Have a nice evening.